Welcome back. So previously we talked about some of the stories that we heard of, right? Some of the child development issues, family issues when it comes to dealing with divorce, right? Other than divorce, right? Are there any other areas that you all work with?
Oh yeah, for sure. Because we are set up to assist any families going through any court proceedings, right? So that's why friends of the court. So we have worked with families with their own kids, got involved with the law, right? And they've gotten some legal support, and they need some psychological assessments, right, to understand how the behavior came about, right? So we do support in that area by conducting assessments, right, so that those involved, the stakeholders involved, will be more informed, right, with the results of the assessment, right, to make decisions for the young person.
What are some examples of legal proceedings that you spoke about?
Okay, so like a child may have been caught for theft, right? And I remember one where a family, the couple was going through divorce, but in the midst of it, a child was actually caught by the police, for theft, and then seek legal representation along the way, lah. Right? Yeah. So the family obviously sought help from the legal practitioners, and then legal practitioners actually reached out to us to help them conduct some psychological assessment. And through the assessment, we found that the child was on the spectrum, high on the spectrum. What that means is basically having autism, but high functioning autism, right? And also lack the ability to recognize the value of the items being stolen.
I see.
Right. So I guess for a legal standpoint, according to legal practitioners, that has material evidence, for them to be able to, I guess, advocate more for the young person. Right. Yeah. So that's one example. Another example would be in a separation situation. If one parent testimony is against that of the other, and be talking about the court, is of the view that they would like to hear the child, so that we do the child evaluation.
Yeah.
So a third party have to come in to basically talk with the child, so to provide a report, to the court, right, about an objective view of what the child is going through, and that will assist the legal proceedings.
I see.
Right? Yeah.
So for June, in this case, where let's say a couple is going through a legal proceeding, could be a divorce, could be any other examples other than legal proceedings?
I think what we hope is that couples don't wait until they want to divorce, then they go and look for a coach, right? We really hope that when they recognize the tension at home, right? Especially some couples are staying with multi-generation.
Yeah.
You know how older people mentality, values are very different and may cause conflict at home. And if that cause a little bit crack in your relationship with your spouse, then come to coaching and seek help, right? Because you don't want to let it escalate until beyond repair, right?
So in this case, right, if it's multi-generation, who will be the person seeking help?
The one who wants to make things, the one who wants to change, the one who wants to change the environment, right? And they want to empower themselves to change the environment, to make it better and healthier environment for their children, for their family. Yeah.
So do you have cases where the children actually come and seek help? Do you work with children, or
I don't work with
only
children.
adults?
Yeah,
only adults.
Yeah.
Okay.
Young adults.
Right. But the rest of the team, we do. I mean, we do, like myself, I do work with the children, the teenagers. Right. So sometimes parents feel that they're more open, they are more proactive. This is what we're going through. I think I'm seeing this with my child. Let's come in and have a discussion with you. My first response to them will always be like, is your child open to coming and see someone like me?
I see.
So I will, we also coach the parent, to have that conversation first with your child to see whether or not they're willing to come in and to have a discussion with us, and that's where I begin to start seeing the children or the teenagers. Right? And then sometimes through to the parents' assessment and observation that the child is actually going through a lot of stress.
Yeah.
Right. Then that comes about. Then that's where I start the work directly with the young person. Right. So that happens too. Happens too. Yeah. And children, obviously, most of the time, it's actually brought in by parents lah. You know, yeah. They may what I consider unmotivated clients, because it's not a choice on their part, right? To say I want to see somebody, right? But typically for young children, that is the case. And then the parent, the adult, continue to bring the child in. I've met families who the children are actually brought in by the grandparents because they go and stay with the grandparents.
Right.
You know, but the grandparents feel that actually they need help, so they bring in the child with the consent of the parents, obviously. You know?
That's rather surprising to me, because usually grandparents, that generation, they are not too open with seeing a psychologist, right? They'll think that, there's something that's not correct mentally, that's why you need to see someone like that, right?
Oh, but you're surprised. Some of grandparents are quite progressive. They, especially now, they're more and more, most of us are quite aware of the issues that we're dealing with, the mental health concerns of the country. You know, so it's a good thing, I think. At least everybody is being sensitized to what this is about.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody's looking out. So it's good. So it takes a village, right, to look out for kids, right? So not just the grandparents, not even the teachers, you know, even like community workers, you know, social service practitioners, they are all working together. So at least in this time and age, you know, I think it's good that for that to be the case, because I think the numbers are just too concerning.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Let's talk about solutions, right? So if, let's say, especially for people hearing this or watching this, right, they might have understood that, okay, there's definitely a problem at home. Let's say I'm a grandparent, right? I'm taking care of my grandchildren. There's definitely something wrong that I see, right? So what are their options? Do they reach out to a regular general psychologist, right? Then do they have a conversation about maybe, you know, looking for a coach for their children? What is the conversation like?
I think in my, because I do reach out to the community by way of doing like webinars or workshops, kind of thing, right? Even I give talks in the library. You know. The attendees are actually, to my surprise, are all grandparents.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, also for practical reasons, parents are working lah. You know, so a bit hard for them to go for all these workshops, you know. But there are parents who avail themselves to opportunities like this to come in and learn. You know, so so to your question is to really go out there and to find out what are the resources available, right? And that's why we it's not in us to do this. Sometimes you find it comfortable to do this, but we are making a point now because we know the needs are out there.
Yeah.
To say that this is one of us, there could be others.
Yeah.
Reach out to us, you know, if you feel that we can help you and support you. If you are worried and concerned, don't worry. Let's have initial conversation first. For the coaching side, we have a discovery discussion. Right, for the clinical side, we have this thing called the intake assessment. Right, if you don't know, if not clear about what this is about, let's have those conversations, and they are free anyway. At least for us, you know, have those things, and then once we get an idea of what we are dealing with, what we're working with, then we will make our recommendations. It's up to you whether or not you would like to actually proceed further, and you decide how you want to proceed. Right, in our case, it could be either a coaching route or either a clinical route.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously we have online resources. You know, my book is one of them, especially for those who want to understand how to work with young people, especially. You know, and Joan also has her own materials. Yeah, so the resources are out there, and I know for a fact in Singapore, all the different, because I do work with the community as well. All the social service agencies, our partners, they have available resources.
Yeah,
we are still we are also doing our part to continue to produce them. Right, so just reach out and then. Use them, I suppose, to help guide your decision making.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if typically if a family is going through a particular situation like that, right? Usually do they have like a helpline that they can call if things escalate, or where do they find these resources?
In the community, there are many. You know, SOS. You know, like I know there's a reach, for example, the helpline, the government has available resources, right? For us, you can just reach out on our website, you know. So I guess the important thing is to know these are available. I can understand it can be difficult, especially for grandparents to access, I guess, digital platforms.
Yeah.
So that's why hopefully you catch us, you know. But otherwise, every, I guess, township, you know, there's this thing called the family service centers. right? You want to just reach out to them, easily available, and they know what to do, right? And they'll be able to guide you. The social workers are able to, to basically talk you through it, to help you, educate you a little bit. If there's a need, the counselors are there as well. It's even for some psychologists. I know of some agencies now who have actually beefed up their mental health team. So there are psychologists, many there, and also the partnership with psychiatrists, the doctors, right? Where medication was involved, and then yes, the doctors are there too. Yeah.
But let's talk about amicus, right? Because for amicus, you all specifically deal with a group of people, right? Would you describe your target or the people that can help?
Oh, so we have partners that we specially reach out to that subscribe to what we call collaborative practice.
Okay.
Basically, what that means is that because families go through the legal proceeding, we subscribe to the view that whatever I'm contributing to the family, in our case, either coaching or clinical support, as you go through the legal support, the lawyers are supporting you for that matter. At some point in time, we need to have the conversation. As to like, hey, how come this is coming up in my discussion with them? This is the lawyers talking, right? That this is coming up, and they are not able to basically land on any agreement whatsoever, and they are just very litigious. Never mind, just send a lawyer letter, that kind of thing, and it's at that kind of level of conversation, right? But the family court encourages dialogue. They have conferences, right? Mediation, right? For families to, try to consider less acrimony, have those conversations, try to jointly focus on what matters most to each party, and then from there make a decision, right, on your, I guess, post-separation or post-legal proceedings life. So because all partners subscribe to this collaborative practice, it's easier. Of course, each professional will have to adhere to our professional code of ethics or conduct, meaning to say that whatever that is being discussed with us, we cannot divulge personal information or what was ever discussed in our discussion, because we are obligated to ensure confidentiality for the client, and likewise for the legal practitioners as well, and likewise for the medical profession as well, right? And that will continue to be the case, right? We won't know unless you give consent that we can disclose or we can make mention to the other professionals. But what's key is that all professionals that we are partnering with shares the view that because it's a very painful journey to go through litigation, right? Let the professionals do their job. You just focus on what's important, right? And we're there to support you. So you be it legal, be it clinical. There's also a support for finance that we are working with. We selected a few of them as well.
I see.
Meaning to say, because some families have large estates.
Yeah.
Right? And they obviously want to consider that in the context of a post-separation situation, and what goes to the child and what goes to them, or what I want to keep, what I don't want to keep, for example, right? It can be quite difficult. Right? So in a case where there's a huge estate, for example, our partner will be able to talk you through, work with you professionally to talk about things like estate planning, or creating a trust. If it's not a personal trust, then it'll be a corporate trust, for example. Because why that is the case? Because I don't trust the person, as in the couple wouldn't trust the trustee that the other partner actually selected or I selected, because obviously there's no trust between us already. So let's consider a third party, a corporate trustee. A corporate trust to ensure that they help you work through whatever is an neutral party, right? So that you can have all your terms and conditions and your arrangement all settled out, and then a corporate trust will basically help you administer, what both of you want for your child or for whatever, for your family. Yeah. So partners working with us subscribe to collaborative practice, and that's what it means. Yeah.
I see. That's why you all call yourself friends of the court.
Yes.
Amicus Curiae.
Yes.
Oh, I love it.
Yes.
So it seems like Amicus Curiae is positioning yourself as the ecosystem provider.
Yeah, that's right. And very uniquely in only certain areas, right? Legal, mental health coaching, and for now, finance, because we feel that this is the constant bugbear for parents, for couples, for families.
Yeah.
Maybe there will be others down the road. We don't know. But I think the most immediate needs are these.
Yeah.
Because they discuss this in a divorce situation, ancillary matters, right? Post-divorce arrangement, care arrangement. These are the immediate topic of discussion, right? So we will do that more, and that's our focus for now.
I see.
Right? It may evolve. I don't know, but I think this is something that is important for now.
I mean, you spoke earlier about how the current practice for some of the divorce lawyers are a bit more litigious. That was the word you used, right? So how is Amicus coming in to change this?
By nature, the legal profession is adversarial, right? Because they are advocating for their clients, right? And it's very hard for the legal practitioners, our partners, those who especially may not subscribe to this yet, to actually consider the psychological and emotional well-being or needs of their clients. Not that they don't, I guess they do it very differently, especially when you talk about families going through separation or significant amount of stress when it concerns children. So we hope to be able to support the legal practitioners in this area if they feel that their clients need this kind of support. Because our team also, we are trained in law. So we know the legal process, what the judiciary is concerned about and focused on, especially when it comes to families, right? So we are hoping to connect with lawyers, legal practitioners, more down the road to be able to, acquaint ourselves to their work and to know how we can value add to their clients and their work, obviously, so that our motivation is to ensure that the child is well-being is being looked after, right? From a psychological, emotional standpoint.
Yeah.
More so, right? Yeah. I just want to make a quick mention that we don't just do the divorce and family separation matters, right? Because they are within the family courts, there are also the youth court. And what the youth court does is also issues like, for example, youth crime, families who are unable to continue to manage their children. There's an issue also about child protection, for example, right? We contribute to those work as well.
Okay.
Why? Because if the child is not going to school or dabbling with a lot of risky behaviors, and you reach a point where you cannot manage already. I mean, there are legal instruments for you to seek help, right? But before you even consider that, would you want to consider having to speak to someone like us, to consider reaching out, to your kid and see whether or not we can support them better and find out what's the issue, why are they not coming to school, why are they committing crimes, and so on and so forth, right? And it may not be, the parent may not be the one to actually convince the child to come in, but maybe a caregiver.
Right.
Maybe because that's where the issue started, right? Because the family, there's no supervision maybe, or there's already bad tension, bad communication between parent and child. So the parent may not be the one seeking help. It could be a caregiver, grandparents, for example, or the teachers, in the community, tuition teacher, or I don't know. Could be anybody, right? But a resource like ours is available, right? Or like you see, like the child coming to you and you're taking care of the child, and the child is like all bruised up or a bit agey, fidgety because of maybe even a loud bang or like a touch on the shoulder, and the child is like, oh my goodness, these are telltale signs, something is going on, right? You want to be able to, reach out to a professional, right? Like ourselves to ascertain what's really going on.
Yeah.
And then we will be able to provide some direction, right? Whether or not you call the police, whether or not you reach out to child protection, and so on and so forth.
I see.
Right? Yeah. So, the whole works of family justice, matters. Right? That's where we are, supporting.
Yeah.
Right? And that's where we feel the most, meaning in doing the work that we're doing.
For Joan as well, because when Nicholas is speaking about the family legal and proceeding, that's when something already happened, right? So how about for your line of work? Where do you come in to support families?
Okay, so for coaching, it has to be self-directed. If the individual doesn't want be coached or want to find out more to seek help, then there's nothing the coach can do, right? But the moment they make that decision, because some people, depending on personality, some people internalize and they know that this is one area that I really need help, and they proactive and they seek help. That's where coaching comes in. But there are other people, like Nick say, the person continuously allow themselves to be abused, and they're not asking for help because they always think that tomorrow will be a better day.
Yeah.
Right? And so this is something that I cannot intervene in that sense. Unless somebody talk to the person and say, why don't you go and speak to a coach or something like that? Otherwise, coaching is always very self-directed.
And just to add on to that, maybe you can add on further as well. We also do coach couples, right? Because if the couple is of the view that actually they don't see themselves going together anymore, but they jointly agree that to be the case, right? And not one party requires the coaching, as in the support to have clarity of mind on their decision.
Yeah.
Right? They can come in together jointly and start that coaching process together because they are on the same page to begin with.
Yeah.
They agree that they should part ways, or they agree that certain decisions should be made on the legal procedure or legal decision, right? And they are one mind about it, right? They can come in to have that coaching session together, right? But they need to recognize that the moment they feel that they want to take it separately, then that can't be done.
I see.
Right, because we need to honor that confidentiality. So the moment I see you separately, right, then it will conflict me if I will see the other person in the session, right? Yeah. And same for us as well. So we do have couple therapies, for example, right? So then they have to view that they are going through certain things that have impacted them significantly on their mental health. So we can do that couple session, right? But I think the moment we take that separately, individually, then that's where we make a recommendation that, okay, look, if are you comfortable with me, maybe this is to the husband, for example, then I will just see the husband, but maybe I'll get my colleague to actually see the wife separately.
Yeah.
And there's a need to come back together, then we'll have a joint session together.
I think that is in the context of they really want to work on their relationship.
That's right.
But if they are already into a divorce, right, then as a coach, I can only coach one party.
I see.
To be fair, right?
Okay.
Because it's confidentiality.
Yeah.
I mean, when somebody, I always say, when somebody look for a divorce coach, there are always three scenarios. They either thinking about it, not sure whether to move or don't move. Hopefully through coaching, we can help them to look at the other party in a different perspective and try to go back and salvage it. The other scenario is somebody is in the divorce already, in the divorce proceeding, and got very high conflict, contest and all those things, right? And the third scenario would be somebody who finished a divorce, still feel very dejected, don't know how to pick themselves up, and cannot move on. That's where the coach comes in.
Understand. So walk me through this, right? Let's say there is a couple that is they're having certain conflicts, and maybe they decided that, okay, maybe you should get a divorce, right? I want to go the legal route, right? So at what point in time should they think about, or maybe we should have a conversation with amicus first to find out what we don't know about? At what point should they think about that?
As long as they are saying that, they are of the view that, and it's a shared one, where they need to start talking to somebody about this, that's where they should come in.
Because they must agree.
Yeah, they must agree.
Both of them must agree.
If they don't?
If they don't agree, then if one party feels that they want to have some guidance or want to talk it out based on whatever they have in mind, then they should start seeing somebody.
I see.
Right, yeah.
Okay. So it's more of helping them seek more clarity before they move forward in anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
If they wanted to, If they wanted to, yeah.
Because sometimes people seek divorce or when there's dispute, it's not because of one big thing. It is always accumulated issues, and it becomes such a big thing, So if they are proactive in trying to seek help, to seek clarity, to unpack what is actually troubling them, probably they can find a solution through coaching. They realize that actually all these are very nitty-gritty, and every day we are actually quarreling about somebody else and not us.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So then there must be a trigger point.
Yeah.
Right? And they go like, okay, you know what? I give up on the relationship per se. Right? Then that's when they start to consider a lot of other different things that come along the way. For example, do we stay together? Do we proceed with the legal route and things like that? And that's when you all can step in to help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you step in to help before that decision is even made?
I think that would be most ideal, right?
Yes, I was
That
just
would
about
be
to say
most
that.
ideal.
That'd be best.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
best.
Yeah, that'd be best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you like to share any experience you have?
I have. I mean, I have someone who is. In this case, it was just one person, right? Not the couple. This person who contacted me, I did the discovery session, with him, and he was very sure that he wanted a divorce. 80% he make up his mind. So when can I see you? So he came in, and in divorce, I also let my client do a personality assessment. This is to show that the assessment tool tells you what motivates you and what are the fear that you're carrying, what the motivation you're carrying, and what is your desire. What is it that you do that you are sabotaging yourself? That's what the report says, right? So through the personality profiling, I was unpacking all these things for him, and he realized that certain behavior of his wife and certain response from his wife actually was due to his own behavior because of his own because of his unconscious behavior, right? And at the end of the session, he says, Joan, I want to rethink. And he did talk about, things that, but if I rethink, I go back, I must do this, I must do that again. But I say you got to reframe your mindset. It's not that you must. But if you come from a space that you want to, right, that's a different thing. Because when you want to do something, you're empowering yourself. You make the choice that you want to make it happen. You make the choice that you want to give your relationship a second chance. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like Nick and I say, ideally, if they really want to talk about it, that would be most ideal, even before they even think about going their separate ways.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
would you like to share with me your work that you do, right, to help people understand the responsibility and the entire thought process behind marriage even?
Yeah, I mean, it's not an easy decision to make, right, to get married. So by way of providing some kind of support, right, to anybody, because of the work that we are doing with families going through separation, we have the view that we need to go further upstream, right? Meaning to say that we offer an opportunity for couples who are thinking of getting married, right, to have those serious discussions first before they take the plunge, right? And we recognize, it's they want to decide to be with each other for the rest of their life, sure, all right. If you value that and you can see yourself, being with each other's life for until death do us part, right? Then let's learn how to get that in, by talking about important matters to our heart, right? Some will call it marriage preparation, some will call it pre-marriage discussions, whatever it is. So we have a list of items of topics to talk about. Example like values, children, money, for example. Right, have those conversations, right? If you're okay with those matters and you're kind of like have a certain mind share over all these matters among many others, then, and if you feel that this is something that you want to, you're ready to take it forward, then okay, good. So that's one. The other thing is also to encourage young people to have conversations with adults. About matters like this in terms of getting into a commitment for a long time to come, right? Because again, I'm a bit biased because I'm guided by neuroscience. So at the end of the day, for a young person considering commitment like this, such a huge commitment, the likelihood of you coming from what I call a limbic space, or consideration could be, your consideration in short, in layman's term, could be like more emotional because it's really good. I'm very excited about being somebody, and it's very relational kind of consideration because you're so special to me. It has great meaning, very limbic considerations. You also want to talk it out with parents, grandparents, somebody, an adult, who you respect and look up to, a role model, to have those conversations and ask, I call it the rule of three, three things, about why I am suitable or not suitable, because you're seeing me grow up, this is something that I want to, decide for myself. What do you have for me? Have that consideration, and then don't make rash decisions. Take 3 hours, 3 months, 3 years, or to decide. Having this process in place to talk to people, go through a workshop, go for a program, where both of you come together, or on your own, go for a retreat, have to go away and just consider this seriously and journal it down. These are things that you can do, which we are also of the view that we should provide, and we are providing.
Yeah,
a platform, an opportunity for considerations like this before anything happens.
Yeah,
we're already dealing with all this already on a day-to-day work.
Yeah.
Right, so we are informed by all that we are seeing and experiencing. So we hope to be able to do a little bit more, I guess, upstream work.
I think from my space, it's really to equip the couple, right, with the resources, the mindfulness, right? As they progress, day one of marriage is very different. As you progress in your journey in your marriage life, like I say, people do change. Your priorities change, your mindset change, and when those changes come about, then how do you start pulling out all your resources? Agreeing at the onset that how we want our marriage to be, how we want our relationship to be. And when you hit with those, those challenges, what do you do? Bring back that mindfulness, bring back the resources, that how you want to build that relationship and continue to build that relationship. And I think that's important.
I want to talk about this deeper, right? Because it's very interesting you talk about using the word resourcefulness, right? What do you think is the most ideal state when it comes to being empowered? And why is tapping into your resources so important in this state?
Okay, so resources in this sense is twofold. One is resources, is the physical resources, right? Our experience, our expertise, our intelligence, our talent, all those things. Those things are our internal resource we do have, right? And in certain resources we don't have, we go to external. Either we go for training or we get somebody to support. Those are external resources. The other form of resourcefulness is our state. Right? I mean, I always carry the presupposition that there's no such thing as unresourceful people. We are all very resourceful, because throw us into any situation, I think we can resolve issue, we can solve problem. But because our state is not resourceful, no matter how intelligent we are, at the point in time we are so triggered, we are so overwhelmed by our emotions, we cannot resolve those issues that actually on hindsight is very easy to resolve. Because our state is not resourceful. And when we talk about resourceful state, we're talking about how do we regulate our mental state? How do we regulate our emotional state? And because our emotion is triggered by what we think, and our behavior is triggered by our emotions. Therefore, we need to regulate our mental, our emotional, and our physical state. And that is behavior. Right? No matter what we try to do, at the back of our mind, we have a positive intention to say certain things to our spouse or to our children, but our behavior come out all wrong.
Yeah.
Because it's not congruent to our positive intention. And unfortunately, people only judge us by our behavior. Doesn't see behind the behavior that we have a positive intention. So when I talk about resourceful state, it's about, in a given situation, especially in a very challenging environment, how do we have the resources within us to regulate our mental, our emotional state, as well as our physical state? Some of us need to take deep breath. Some of us need to walk away, and then go out and take a glass of water. If you notice, some people like to go out and do a jog. Yeah. That is about changing your state. And hopefully when you move away and come back, your state becomes more resourceful. And you are able to look at the situation very differently, more calmly. Yeah.
It's interesting because Nicholas wrote the book of Clash of the Mind and Heart, right? And I think what you just mentioned is what is said in the book. So Nicholas, could you share from the neuroscience perspective, right? How does this prefrontal and the limbic condition come in this situation?
Yeah, so the heart of it, the essence of it, right? It's about adults operating from a different space in the brain compared to a young person. Right, and the two parts of the brain is basically what I highlighted is the prefrontal and the limbic. So prefrontal is here, and the limbic is, if this is the brain, the limbic is right in the middle, right? Yeah, and the function of the limbic is basically that of memories, recording, sense making, the fight or flight responses, regulating hormones, So the in short, basically the emotional seat of emotions.
Is it like the movie? The there's this movie, I can't remember the title, but it features the different characters that represent different emotions.
That's
Yes,
right. That's
yes.
right. That's right.
So that's the limbic.
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
Right. So
limbic
it's a seat of emotions, right? The prefrontal is responsible for decision making, right?
The logic,
the consequential thinking, you think of the future, right? And I guess to understand this is actually the brakes lah. So if I was angry, I can basically take something to throw at you. You know, I can punch you, for example, right? So that's coming from the limbic space, but the prefrontal will then say, hey, wait, if you throw a punch, then you might actually hurt somebody, you know, or you need to, somebody might call the police and you may be charged, for example, right? So that's the part of the brain that is the prefrontal who informs me all this because I need to consider the future and what potentially might happen to me. And I decide what I want to do with my own emotions, which is actually be angry right now. I'm in full of rage.
Yeah.
Right. So from that space, I begin to think about how I can actually behave such that I actually can manage my anger. Right. So you can imagine instead of like feeling betrayed, feeling a sense of loss, grief, for example, is all in the limbic space. Right. But I need to think about the impact on my children, you know, like, my partner may even charge me or there's the lawyers involved, that kind of thing. What would the lawyers do? Or what would they, you know, and how will they act towards me, that kind of thing. All these are the prefrontal considerations.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So it's important for us to recognize this from a neuroscience perspective because it's evidence-based. That's why I like to use neuroscience to guide me. If I put an adult and a child side by side and subject them to an emotional stimuli, for the adult, from the brain scans, right, the prefrontal and the limbic system lights up. But for the young person, only the limbic lights up.
Oh.
But having said that, that doesn't mean that the child cannot actually consider prefrontally. There cannot be prefrontal consideration. The child can, but it takes a while. So the science informs us that at the onset of puberty, the limbic system is fully developed. So it's almost fully functional, operational. They think from the limbic for a young person. But it's not until about mid-20s, late 20s, right? The prefrontal is fully developed. So the developing, the neural connections start happening for the young person, right? At the onset of puberty. But it's the limbic system is fully developed at the onset of puberty. So that means there's a gap, if you will, roughly about 10 years for the prefrontal to fully develop. The child can consider prefrontal considerations, like if you throw a punch or you hit your sister, for example, right? I'm going to punish you or you're going to hurt her. The child can understand that. Right, but the next day or 1 hour later, if the child is angry again and is upset that the siblings actually like causing taking away my toy, you know, whatever it is, right? The child is just going to react emotionally first. Unlikely the child is going to think like, no, if I were to do this, then this is what's going to happen to me. I'll get punished. It doesn't come naturally.
I see.
Right, so we need to be appreciative of this reality because the science informs us. It's undisputed. You put down there, it's evidence-based, right? So more so in a litigation situation, right? A family going through litigation, right? Or the child being caught for some crime that they did, whatever it is. The child, we need to recognize, operates from the limbic first. Not that they cannot think of the consequences. In fact, some of them may even say, "Oh, sir, I never thought about all this kind of thing. If I knew this actually would happen, right, I wouldn't have done." Obviously, but no, here's the child because here's the adult because going through all this stressful situation, you know, or cannot appreciate the reality of where they are at. Then they go to, "Oh, you're so stupid or what, right? Why didn't you consider this? You should have known better. What, you're already like 16 years old. You've gone through this so many times. Primary school also you cannot before that something." But no, the reality is that they are still developing.
I see.
Right? And in the context of like a separation, if they are going through a stressful situation and the adults are expecting that the child will be able to step up in a certain situation, I think that's unrealistic because developmentally speaking, they are always limbic first. So if you expect the child to consider your state or mommy and daddy's state, right, you know what we're going through, you know what your daddy did, or you know what your mommy did, the child knows prefrontally, right? But I still feel first as a child. Right, and I still recognize, I still remember limbic, or how much daddy has spent time with me, what was mommy done with me, you know, when in those good days, those are still very stuck in my memory, and it will play up a lot. So if you ask me to make a decision prefrontally, I'm going to be very stuck because emotionally I'm in a situation where you even ask me almost to betray one parent against the other. And emotionally at the limbic space is it's not something that you want to put a child through.
Yeah.
So the adult need to appreciate that reality for the child and about the child. And hopefully we can involve the child in the conversation about making decisions in legal proceeding, right? Hopefully using some limbic strategies.
What are some limbic strategies?
Like, for example, okay, son, can I talk to you? I mean, they have been going through this, right? But we are finding it difficult to actually continue to live with each other, and we are actually thinking of this thing called divorce. Do you know what it means? I will ask my child, my teenager, and then whatever that they say will inform me as to their understanding of what this means. All right, and I'll ask a question. So do you know what that means? What does it mean? Or it means that Daddy and I, we're going to live separately, and we may not be living together, right? So I have to describe it in such a way, unique to every family, right? But I have to describe it, right? So in my coaching with adults, parents, teachers, right, I talk about this thing called the ask strategy as opposed to the tell strategy. So I ask them the question like, do you know what it means, right? Yes or no? Then okay, it means that mommy will be staying with so and so, they will be staying like that. So it means that on weekends you're going to stay with mommy, is it okay? And after that on weekdays you stay daddy, is it okay? I ask because the limbic gets activated more. I get to talk a little bit more about my feelings. Sometimes they say, I don't know. Yeah, sure, because you're expecting them to actually tell you from a prefrontal space, but they can't. So you need to expect they say, I don't know, or you must expect that they actually don't have anything to say, right? But you need to basically, the point of asking the question is basically to hear them out as to where they are more inclined towards, so what their reservations, what are their fears, right? That's what the adult is supposed to be doing, right? So it's hard to talk about it like that because there's so many things involved. But that's why the platform is important, right? The clinical space is important, the coaching space is important because it gives you time and a professional hand to walk you through all this. Right? Recognize the emotions, recognize the strategies, whether the strategy is helping or not. It may help you prefrontally because it works for the adults, but it may not help you with the strategies with the child, and vice versa. All right, I think the last thing I just want to highlight is that the adult is actually in a better position to decide whether to operate from a limbic space or the prefrontal space because they're fully developed prefrontally and fully developed limbically. But the child is not developed at the prefrontal. So in order for the adult to switch code, so to speak, it's a lot easier than the child. So if you expect the child to act, behave, comment, make a decision based on a prefrontal consideration, it's going to be very challenging. Right? And they rather not. And they rather, because they love you so much, or the adult so much, that they rather be emotionally torn. And sometimes they go into depression, sometimes they go into like social isolation, they just continue gaming, they just don't go out, that kind of thing. They rather do that than having to make those decisions and having to go to a prefrontal space, right, to operate within the adult's prefrontal space where prefrontal considerations are being made and decisions are being made.
Yeah, and that requires the adults to have that awareness, and it has to be intentional, right? And therefore, that's where your development has to come in, because development can only take place when it starts with self-awareness. Okay, if every time I'm going to approach my son with this emotional side of me, then I need to be very aware, and now I want to intentionally bring my prefrontal to communicate with my son. So it needs to be very intentional. And coaching, like Nick was saying, in coaching we also do a lot of ask rather than tell. Because at the end of it all, we want our client to be accountable for their decision, to be accountable for the action, and the commitment that they say they want to do in order to achieve what they set out to achieve, right? Yeah. So it's a lot of ask. And when you ask more than you tell, you help the other person reflect and internalize. Yeah. And then as they internalize and reflect, sometimes it gets a lot of insight. And then it creates more self-awareness for themselves. Actually, when you asked me this question earlier, I didn't realize that I was behaving this way. So the insight will come.
Yeah. And I think that's the reason why Friends of the Court is so important. Because I imagine for a couple going through a very terrible case of divorce, for example, right? They are fighting for it emotionally. They have a lot of things to consider. There's a lot of prefrontal work going on as well. To even sit down with a kid and speak to them from their heart, right? I would think that is so difficult because if you are going through this, then most likely you are shutting off one part of your emotional side in order to progress, right? So how would you suggest to the couples even, right, to approach the kid and make sure that they speak from the heart emotionally, right, so that they know that the kids are in a better place?
That's a very tough question actually, because the adults may not be in a good space already. So they may really be coming from a space of anger or betrayal, right? Or even, grief for that matter, right? So it's not easy, but I guess it's still possible. Why? Because, like I said, the adult's in a better position, right, to alternate between the prefrontal disposition, consideration, action, and the limbic, right? So because you are much older, you have more faculties, more abilities to do something like this. You can switch code, so to speak, and sit a young person down and share from their perspective, what I call using the I statements. Son, girl, I am going through a bad time. We can be honest, the more honest we are, the better it is for our child, and the child really appreciates that. Although they sometimes don't say it. I'm going through a bad space, and I think this is not working out for mommy or daddy, and I like to make certain decisions that may impact you. What do you think about this? Oh, what do you mean, mom? I'm thinking to live separately for a while. Or I intend to do this, what does it mean? Or it means this, right? Right? Have the child hear you talk about your emotions, because that's where they are at. So the more you say that I feel this, I feel difficult, I want to do this, right? They connect immediately. But as opposed to giving them the, a pre-down, your father's always been like that, your mommy's always been like that, The better thing to do is, I think to do this kind of thing, it's all prefrontal downloading,
There's no feelings.
No feelings at all. The child's like, yeah, I heard that before. Yeah. Oh, here we go again. I can almost second guess you.
Yeah.
Because the child has been dealing with you for all this while, right? So it's like everything you want to talk about, whatever you try, you just go past them. They're not going to just get it. So in a situation like that, you want to be in a good space so that when you communicate with the I statements, and you're sharing your emotions and you're trying to engage your child relationally, it's meaningful. They get it. You get it. And then you have a joint discussion, about how you can proceed this. But at the same time, because you're an adult, you want to also recognize that you don't want them to be party to your decision, number one.
Yeah.
You don't want them to make your decision for you.
Correct.
And you want to acknowledge the fact that you have contributed to my consideration. So thank you, son. Thank you to the girl about sharing how you feel. It's important for mommy. It's important for daddy, and you really share your heart out. That allows me to make decisions. I'm not expecting you to make decisions for me because it's not your fault. It's not your problem. It's a problem that adults are going through. Right? I just want you to just know that I love you, and it's important for you to continue to do well, and we will find a solution for ourselves. But know that we make certain decisions, right? It can impact you, but I don't need to worry about it. But because of your sharing, I'm factoring those considerations. And you just tell me along the way what you feel, and we can just along the way, and we'll take it together.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It's very interesting with what Nick said, right? Because in my experience with clients, some of our clients are very hate space. So they don't want to go to the space of the heart. If they can, you will avoid. Then some clients are very feeling type, their heads, their heart space, and that's why they got problem with their spouse who's very hate space, That's why there's always conflict. There's always this unspoken expectation, right? Differing expectation. Because one expectation is from the heart, the other one expectation is from the head. So it's very interesting when Nick brought up this. And so in a coaching perspective, when a client is hate space, what I would do is try to, help the client to move towards here, to the heart space. And let them experience, about the feelings. And when somebody is always the feeling type, I will, try to help them to move into the logic. Do you see your party is in this? So it's very interesting. I mean, for me, with every coaching, I learn a lot too, from my clients.
So it's not about how to control, but more of how do you regulate?
Yes.
Right? And how do you identify this conversation? Is it a limbic conversation or is it a prefrontal conversation? And match the person at that level.
Yeah.
Right. And I find this conversation very, very interesting because you cover relationships, right? What makes or break a relationship, as well as parenting. Right? A lot of times, I believe a lot of Asian parents, don't do this, start to enforce certain punishment. But after the punishment happened, the kid still goes back to do it again, right? Because they don't understand.
Yeah.
Right. And I think what you pull out is amazing, because then if you're able to connect with the child from heart to heart, then they will understand you better.
Correct.
Yeah.
So actually they understand prefrontally because they heard you have taught them, or you said before.
Yeah.
But because they are developing prefrontally, right? At that point in time when something does happen, they need to act accordingly. They will come from the limbic space first. Right? So we need to understand that not that they cannot consider prefrontally, not that they cannot understand. They can. Right? But the adult need to manage the expectation, right? About their responding to the situation or responding to them as the adult. Right? And because the neuroscience 101 also tells us, right, it takes a while for a habit to develop.
Yeah.
Right? So you repeatedly do certain things like practice how to manage my anger, count 10 times, count to 10, to regulate my own emotion, that kind of thing, right? But if you only do it with me once, that's all I have in terms of my neural pathways. That means the learning habit.
Yeah.
Right? In my brain, right? So it's not a habit still. I hear it, I've done it before, but doesn't mean I will automatically just do it. It's not a habit. So I need to keep doing it. When I'm upset, I keep doing it 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, that kind of thing, right? Right? And after that, then we kind of like, at least the adult can put hand on heart and say that, okay, at least I've walked my child through some practice. In my absence, when my child is beginning to feel angry, I can rest assured that I've seen him demonstrate that a few times already. The skill is present.
Yeah.
Right? And there's also an automatic recall of the behavior. So I can be certain that I've done my part. I don't have to worry about it. But because they're limbic first, they may not want to do it because you ask them to do it. Or you expect them to do it because they are always having fun first, the more exciting first, that kind of thing, or be my friend first, that kind of thing, right? They are always there first. But our role is to assess whether or not they actually can do it. They can make a decision, tell themselves whether it's right or wrong, and then make a right decision for themselves.
I see.
That's our role as the adult, right? So we need to recognize our place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not so much of enforcing them into a behavior that eventually, if they are not in a purview, right, they won't do it.
Yeah.
But it's more of, have we done the job of giving them that habit to regulate it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And whether they choose to do it is really up to them and their own growth.
Increasingly so as they enter adolescence, and into their mid-20s, right? Because they are the different stage of their life developmentally. So they are the stage where what I call individuating, finding their own identity, right? As opposed to if they were a lot younger, then yes, I say one means one, please do one, and if not,
have to set rules.
Have to set rules. The boundaries are a lot narrower. But if they enter adolescence, they want to find themselves, they want to know how the world is like. What my parents have been teaching me, is it really true? I'll go out there and try a little bit, try and error, that kind of thing, right? Then your boundaries have to be broader.
Yeah.
So that they can still make mistakes, they can still, hurt themselves, that kind of thing, but safely. And you still have in a way, an eye over their well-being, which they still need.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's important for the adult to appreciate.
For Joan, right, let's go into for adults, right? How do they regulate speaking with logic versus speaking with emotions? It's very interesting because last year when we were having our own management training right within the company, and we told them, okay, in certain conversations, try not to use I think, try to use I feel, right? And I think in the workplace especially, a lot of people come from the prefrontal thinking, right? It's all logical, it's all justifiable, there's nothing here that they usually reconcile with, right? So in your experience, Joan, how is it like for adults, especially in a relationship?
I think be very aware and attentive to what is being said, right? Because if your spouse tell you, I'm feeling this way, I'm feeling that way, and then the response is through the logic, go and do this, right? So it's using the head. Then the person should really tell the other person, no, I'm telling you how I feel. So in my coaching, it's the same thing. When I ask my client, you have gone through the experience, how do you feel? Then they start telling me that they do this. Then I let them tell me. In the end, I say, oh, I was asking you, how do you feel? So I want them to connect back to their heart. Likewise, in a couple, pay attention, be very attentive to each other's conversation. And the choice of words, very important, right? Because more often than not, before one person finish talking, the fella brush you off.
Yes.
That's how it happens when conflict happens at home between a couple, right?
Yeah.
Be very attentive, be very intentional that you really want to be present and pay attention to what this person has to say to you. And many a times we forget to be present.
Yeah.
While we are here engaging with our family, playing with our kids, our mind is thinking about work, something else. And it takes a lot of effort, practice to be present. And when you're present, you give your full attention to the person talking opposite you. You'll be able to pick up some data points about how is this person wanting some emotional connection, or is this person wanting to talk to you about logic? So the attentiveness is important. And we always forget to be present for our family.
Yeah. I think it's natural because sometimes, even for myself, I'm not perfect, right? But I take things for granted, especially with close ones, because you expect them to understand you the most.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah. I got it.
So what are some tips, right, for adults to practice that mindfulness?
Pause. Don't be too quick. Pausing is always a very good skill. Many a times when we listen to rebut or we listen to reply. But I think if we do pause, we are listening to understand. So when third level of listening, right? First level is I listen to reply, I listen to rebut, But going to the deeper level of listening, that is not just active listening, it's about mindful listening. Because when you're mindful in listening, you are also picking up the non-verbal, right? When the person sitting opposite me is telling me this frustration of his or hers, you look at the non-verbal, the frowning, or he's looking away. What does it tell you? Then these are data points for you to be curious about things. Okay, I understand you were telling me how you feel, but as you are explaining to me your feeling, how is it like for you now? Be very intentional. And I think mindful listening, helps overcome a lot of conflict in a relationship.
And I used to do this, and I also share my clients this strategy. It's like a mantra that you say. You have nothing good to say, don't say. Right? But I know it can be hard for some people. Right? I really want to say it.
Yeah.
Right? So if you have a lot of difficulty is telling or some things about what I'm going through. So if I really have to say it, I'm not stopping you to say it. Right? But can you say it in a way that is constructive?
Yeah.
That's meaningful. Right? So that's what I mean also by if nothing good to say, don't say it. Because the goodness has to contribute to the problem solving.
Correct.
Or the resolution of it. Right? So this is something I practice myself, and also I offer it as a consideration for my clients to use, especially for emotionally charged adults.
Yeah.
And also young people, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I carry a presupposition too, right? Behind every behavior is a positive intention. And all I always ask my client is that try to be congruent. Try to align your behavior to your positive intention, because more often than not, people judge us by our behavior.
Yeah.
Right? So the impression that people receive from what you're trying to say, actually with all good intention, didn't come out right. It didn't come out right. So it's all about practice. I mean, a lot of practice.
Why do you think there is that lack of congruency with intention and behavior?
Because our mouth shoot faster than what we want to think.
In other words, from a brain perspective, right, we always limbic first.
Yeah.
And it's very natural. It's very natural because it's fully developed. So you actually work that part of the brain a lot earlier in our life.
Yeah.
First than the prefrontal. So a lot of us adults, sometimes I use this term called overage teenager to an adult. Because sometimes, no, it's true, because sometimes I have worked with many adults, right, who are far more limbic than the young person.
Oh.
And it takes a long time for them to go to a prefrontal space and say, oh, wait, pull the brakes and say, wait, this is ridiculous. And even the child can tell you that.
Yeah.
And the child knows this is like not helping the situation, and they know how to hold their tongue and then to contribute back and come up with a bit more constructive rebuttal if they have to and they want to. But the adult is just losing it all the way between parent and child.
Wow.
And then the child can even tell me in session, like, my mom is going to say this. Or this is what my dad's going to do.
Wow.
Because this is the adult being in the prefrontal space all the way. But the child is in a better position to control their limbic or manage the limbic than their parents. You know, So, so the strategies, I mean, we talk like it's easy, but actually in real terms, it's very difficult. Right? Coming back to the example of like having to know how to contribute positively.
Yeah.
There are the strategies like reframing, for example. The strategies like have a positive mindset, right? And how are we going to basically instead of looking at the glass half empty, how can we actually straight away convert it into the glass half full kind of thing, right? It takes practice, you know. And it's difficult to just say that if I don't say anything, it's very, very difficult to apply ourselves from the perspective of having to say something good, right? And not say something bad. Not easy. But at that point in time, it's really boiling. I really want to say something. Well, how do you apply myself? And these are the strategies. And there are many out there that we can learn. And to me, I feel that's the easy part. That means to learn the skills is the easy part.
The practicing is hard.
Practicing is not the part, that's number one. The second hardest part is actually to look inwards and ask ourselves, right, actually, what is the problem? Or what is the issue? That's the harder one. These are the two things that are harder. The skill sets are easy. Yeah. So that's why we feel very strongly that we need to have a platform. Not that there are not many out there, but I think in a unique way, in the context that we are offering our support, the space in which we are offering our support, I think that's where we need.
I think one way to help ourselves is really, before you even want to open your mouth to say something or act on something, ask yourself the question, what's your positive intention? And I always tell my client, when you want to give feedback, your feedback needs to be constructive, but at the same time, build the other person down. And not put the person down. With all good intention, I already told you, it's going to rain, carry an umbrella, otherwise you're going to die under the rain. That kind of thing. But positive intention, I don't want you to get wet. Some parents will say, you want to get soaked and struck by thunder. Umbrella. Some parents are like that, but behind that behavior, it's really, I care. I mean, I have couples who tell me, I'm very irritated because, my spouse will always check on me. So I ask them, take a step back. Why do you think they check on you? For all positive intention, behind their behavior, they care. They could reframe and think about it, they care. Right? So I always encourage people, when you want to give feedback, make sure that no matter how constructive the feedback is, the whole positive intention is to build the person up. Must give the person back the dignity. No matter what your reason is. Must help the person to uphold the dignity. It's so important.
Yeah. Well, that's a really good one. Uphold the dignity.
Yeah.
Appreciate the intention.
Yes.
And let's talk about a better solution.
Yes.
Amazing. Thank you so much for today's conversation. It was really, really insightful. Right. Let's do a roundup and I'll start with the introduction. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, it was really good. What do you think?
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Okay.
You were just flowing, man.
Yeah, it was flowing so well. Okay. So I'll start the intro and then for Men on Mission, traditionally we have this thing where we get our guests to share what is your mission. Yeah, because we want to gather mission-driven people together and be able to share what's the impact that they want to give to the community. So after I finish my introduction, take your time. You guys can share a bit more about what you do. Say, hi, I'm Joan, right? This is what I do. Hi, I'm Nicholas, this is what I do. And maybe, Nicholas, you want to share about the mission? At Amicus Curie, we're on a mission to da-da-da.
Okay.
Okay?